Flight Nevada family say a few words.
Thank you, Nadia, for the introduction. I have my laptop up here. My wife says I've never seen anybody use a laptop for a speech, and I said, it's 2022, honey. Good morning, and thank you for being here on this cold December day. Thanks to Nadia and Eastside Memorial Park and John Yespa and Honor Flight Nevada for this opportunity. Thanks also to Wreaths across America. My name is Jeff Evans, and I'm proud to be able to speak to you this morning. I'm a longtime Douglas County Johnson Lane resident, Douglas High School employee, and Gold Star family member. For those that don't know what Gold Star is, each member of us has lost someone to war. It is an exclusive club that none of us want to be in. At cemeteries all across America, we are laying wreaths at the graves of America's fallen heroes. I am here to put a face and a story with a wreath. At a cemetery in Klamath Falls, Oregon, my family has 7 soldiers buried there that would qualify for a wreath. We always said that if we wanted a family reunion, we would have to have it at the cemetery. My dad and uncle were killed in Vietnam. They were one set of 39 brothers nationwide killed in action in Vietnam. I also lost my brother to complications from injuries suffered on his second tour in Iraq. On October 24th, 1968, my uncle's helicopter was shot down. He was the door gunner, and he stayed on the machine gun so his fellow soldiers could make it to safety. He was killed during this selfless act. My uncle, David Lynn Evans, was 19 years old. I have been in contact with one of the soldiers who made it to safety that day due to Uncle Dave's bravery. He has struggled with his survival. He has had a sign on his office wall his whole life dedicated to my uncle. The sign says, "Because of you, I have today." He invited my wife and I to his family reunion several years ago. He said that due to Uncle Dave's selflessness, his family is able to have a reunion where mine is not. I couldn't get myself mentally and emotionally ready to go to this reunion, so we didn't go. My dad, Norman Francis Evans, was killed during his second tour in Vietnam, November 24th, 1970, 3 weeks shy of coming home. He was 23 years old, I was 2, and my brother was 1. My mom received the news of his passing the day before Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving holiday has always had a different meaning for us. My mom said for the longest time after the soldiers came to the house to deliver the news of my dad's passing, that I would always ask her why the mailman showed up to the house and made her cry. I've spoken with the soldier that was there that day that my dad died, and I don't think he has ever fully recovered from that day. I never knew my dad, and I never knew my uncle. My brother, David Lynn Evans, felt the need to enlist after 9/11. After suffering an injury on his second tour, he never fully recovered and passed away August 5th, 2011, 10 days shy of his 42nd birthday. My brother was named after my uncle. I've been very fortunate to get to know the soldiers that served with all 3 family members. I feel blessed to speak with soldiers that served with my dad so I can learn more about him and his love for God, his family, and his country. Where I lost my dad, my brother, and my uncle, my mom also lost her husband, her son, and her brother-in-law. I also have 4 other family members who served in combat that are buried at the same cemetery. My dad and uncle had an older brother who served in Korea and 3 tours in Vietnam. I was fortunate to get to know this uncle, Uncle Bob. My paternal grandpa, James Evans, served in World War II and Korea. He served in both the Army and the Air Force. My maternal grandpa, Arnold Davis, served in World War II. Also, by the end of the war, he had walked across France 3 times. My mom eventually remarried a wonderful man who raised me and my brother. My grandpa from the remarry, Art Gibbons, fought in the Pacific Theater in World War II. He would tell the story of him being a messenger, and each time he arrived at his destination, his backpack would be riddled with bullet holes, and he kept going. I'm extremely proud of my family's bravery and willingness to serve. 2 years ago, I was fortunate to meet John Yespa. Where did he run off to? Right there. John's the founder of Honor Flight Nevada. I met him at the dedication of the Nevada Gold Star Family Memorial in Sparks. 1 year later, I was on honor flight with my wife to Washington, D.C. with other Gold Star families. John and Honor Flight had a weekend plan that none of us could have ever dreamed of. There were Gold Star members who had family killed in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Honor Flight had something special planned for each of us at our memorials. Mine, of course, was the Vietnam Memorial. At the wall, I met the general in charge of Vietnam commemoration and the wall. Honor Flight had him there specifically to meet with me. We visited my dad and uncle's names and talked about them in their service. The general also asked me about my brother, which kind of caught me by surprise. The general was an Iraq-era veteran, and he was genuinely interested in my brother and his service. This is all a part of what makes Honor Flight so special. John also has this uncanny ability to remember everything told to him. He then uses that to benefit the Honor Flight experience for the guests. Over the course of the weekend, we also visited the Korean Memorial, the Iwo Jima Memorial, and the World War II Memorial with Gold Star families who had lost someone in each of these wars. At each memorial, Honor Flight had something special for each person. We met Mike and Lindy Leonard, and they're here today, right there. They were on our trip as Gold Star family members. Mike was a decorated combat pilot in Vietnam, and he lost his brother in Korea. Lindy's dad was killed during the battle for Iwo Jima. At the Iwo Jima Memorial, John had black sand from the beaches of Iwo Jima for all of us, and I still have it sitting on my dresser. I was able to talk to Mike about my dad and uncle while at the Vietnam Memorial. Mike helped me understand more about my dad's service, and thank you, Mike, for that. We stopped at a relatively new memorial that I had never been to. It was called the Wounds That Never Heal Memorial. For me, this was the memorial that honored my brother. It was full of quotes from soldiers and family members of those injured that will never fully recover. The quote that had the most impact on me comes from Roberto Barrera. He said, "I have a purpose in life, and that's been to help other military families through some of what I had to go through. If I had to go through it myself in order to help others, I'm okay with that." Everywhere we went, we were given a welcome that was very emotional. At the Baltimore airport, we were greeted by hundreds of people applauding our arrival. They were shaking our hands and hugging us, and at various places we were given welcomes and people thanking us for our sacrifice. I honestly didn't feel worthy of the praise, as I felt I had done nothing to earn it, until a Gold Star mom said she was proud to accept the applause because she was representing her son who wasn't there to accept it. So it was her job to do so in honor of her son. So from then on, I started proudly accepting all of the applause and handshakes and hugs for my dad, brother, and uncle because they were not there to do so themselves. The welcome home at the Reno airport was very special and was a great way to end a trip. Hold on, I just went too far. The last night of our trip, Honor Flight had a candlelight dinner. We had to get up and talk about our loved ones. As I previously said, I never knew my dad, so I never knew I'd really never grieved him. I was always that kid whose dad died in Vietnam. I was always that kid whose dad never came home from the war. As I started talking, I started crying. And prior to the Honor Flight trip, I would never be able to stand in front of you guys and tell this without bawling my eyes out. So that's another benefit of Honor Flight. Thank you. It was good medicine for me. I never realized I needed a trip like that to take so much weight off of my shoulders that I had been unknowingly carrying around my whole life. Sharing it with other Gold Star families who have been through the same thing was good for all of us. Our wars and our scenarios are different, but our outcomes are all the same. We have all lost someone, and Honor Flight has gotten us to talk about it. Honor Flight's motto is, "We leave as strangers and return as family." This is so true. More important in my eyes is the emotional healing that takes place, that is secondary to the visiting of the monuments and memorials, but ultimately is what we take away as our primary benefit of the trip. I've been fortunate to go on 2 Honor Flight trips. The second time I was able to visit my dad and uncle on the wall with the Vietnam vets. Listening to their stories helps me know my dad better, to better understand his service and his love for his country. We also got to welcome the Vietnam vets home, something they never got when they returned from the war. Each trip we were fortunate to visit the heroes laid to rest at Arlington and participate in the Wreaths ceremony at Arlington. There are several honor flight folks here today. John, I saw Jim and Don that are here. I saw Ben, and I think Stephen is either here or was on his way. Give them thanks if you can. They have changed lives for the better. John also introduced me to a Vietnamese family while at the wall. They donate every weekend volunteering to help guests. They have 2 little boys that thank every single veteran that they see with a handshake and a thank you for your service. They donate their time because they feel fortunate to be living the American dream. The Vietnam Memorial, side story, was completed while I was in high school. I remember our high school government class took a trip to Washington, D.C., and I was not able to go. My teacher sent me a postcard of the Vietnam Wall, and on that picture of the wall was my dad's name. 58,000 names on that wall, and my dad made the postcard. So I thought that was pretty cool. I have many rubbings of my dad and uncle's names from the wall. I feel blessed that when friends visit the wall, they visit my dad and uncle and they get rubbings of those names. A former student of mine from my days working at Carson High School, and now a good friend, Josh Groth, was a combat pilot in Afghanistan. He did 3 to 4 combat tours as a Black Hawk pilot. He recently sent me a picture of his young children pointing out my dad's name on the wall. He said he was finally able to introduce his kids to my dad. I think I cried on that one when I got that. Why have I told you all of this? Behind every wreath are stories very similar to mine. Our job is to never let these heroes and stories be forgotten. We must say their names, we must share their pictures, and we must tell their stories. We must let Americans know that freedom is not free. Behind every brave soldier buried here is a story of the family that was left behind. Some of these soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. The families made that sacrifice too. All of these soldiers buried here put their country first. So with every wreath that is placed on the grave of a hero, realize that there is a story in that headstone, and the wreath recognizes there is someone laid to rest that was selfless and was brave. We live in the greatest country in the world, and we have our freedoms because we have soldiers who have fought for it, and some of those have fought and died for it. Wreaths across America is giving us the opportunity to tell our family stories so we don't forget them. Shake the hands of veterans, tell them thanks for their service, listen to their stories, and more importantly, thank them for your freedoms. Regardless of all of the loss my family has experienced in defense of our great nation, I am blessed to be here. I am proud of my family, and I'm proud of our sacrifices we have made to this great nation. America was built on sacrifice and bravery. Our soldiers are the best the world has to offer, and I am honored to be able to be here today to recognize them, to recognize you guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks again to Wreaths Across America, Eastside Memorial Park, and Honor Flight Nevada. God bless all of you, God bless all of our veterans, and God bless America. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jeff. In addition,